30 years of UFC history, over 700 fighters, 0 triple champions. Not Jon Jones in his prime, not the undefeated Khabib Nurmagomedov, not even Conor McGregor at the height of his power. The triple championship remains MMA's ultimate prize. 3 belts, ultimate glory, sporting immortality. But right now, 3 fighters are closer than anyone in history to achieving the impossible, and it could happen in 2025. But first, let's talk about why nobody has ever pulled this off. Because to understand how hard 3 belts is, you need to understand that even 2 belts breaks the entire system. In 30 years of UFC competition, only 9 fighters have ever held championships in 2 divisions simultaneously. Think about that. 9 out of over 700.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
That's barely 1%. Conor McGregor shocked the world in 2016 when he knocked out Eddie Alvarez to become the first simultaneous 2-division champion. Before that, fighters had to vacate their belt to move up or down. Daniel Cormier pulled off the heavyweight-light heavyweight double.
But tonight I got the answer. I'm a 2-division champion, baby!
Amanda Nunes dominated women's bantamweight and featherweight. Henry Cejudo called himself Triple C, but that was just his Olympic gold plus 2 UFC belts. Still only 2 divisions.
Champ. I'm already champ. I'm already Olympic champ, UFC champ. I'm looking to be the triple champ, which I told people, I says, after June 8th, after I win this fight, my nickname is officially going to change, not from the Messenger, but it's going to change to Triple C.
And here's the kicker. Most double champions don't last. Israel Adesanya got dominated by John Blachowicz when he tried to take light heavyweight gold. Alexander Volkanovski got dropped by Islam Makhachev in their first fight, crushing his lightweight dreams. Even the successful ones like Conor had to vacate almost immediately because the UFC couldn't handle frozen divisions. So what makes that 3rd belt nearly impossible to achieve? It all comes down to 3 brutal realities that destroy even the most elite fighters. First, your body literally changes when you move between weight classes, and not always for the better.
Happy days, but I've experienced it all. I've experienced near blackouts for the Mendes weight cut.
When Islam Makhachev experimented at middleweight early in his career, he looked like a completely different fighter. Slower, less explosive, his signature speed advantage completely gone. On the flip side, Alex Pereira nearly died making weight multiple times as a middleweight, and he was cutting from around 210 pounds down to 185. Your body composition changes dramatically. Move up and you lose muscle definition and speed. Move down and you lose power and durability. The human body has limits, and 3 weight classes pushes those limits beyond what most fighters can handle. The second barrier is UFC politics and basic mathematics. Dana White once said that double champions break the system because they freeze divisions while they're competing elsewhere. Now imagine 3 frozen divisions. Champions typically fight 2 to 3 times per year max because of training camps, recovery, and promotional obligations. 3 divisions would theoretically require 9 title defenses per year. It's literally impossible. The UFC would be forced to strip belts, which defeats the entire purpose. But the biggest factor might be pure luck and timing. Conor's double championship happened because the lightweight division was in chaos, and Eddie Alvarez was seen as beatable. Daniel Cormier got his heavyweight shot partly because Jon Jones was suspended for his legal issues. You need weak champions, perfect timing, 0 injuries, and the stars to literally align. Most fighters get maybe 1 perfect window in their entire career. 3 perfect windows? Almost unthinkable. Yet 3 fighters right now are positioned to break this curse, and each one has a legitimate path to MMA immortality. Alex Pereira is the most likely candidate, and here's why. He's already proven he can move between divisions by winning both middleweight and light heavyweight gold. At 37, he's running out of time, but that creates urgency. His path is clear. Defend a light heavyweight once more, then move up to heavyweight where the division is historically thin. Jon Jones is barely active. Tom Aspinall is desperate for big names, and heavyweight has always been about power over speed. Pereira's devastating left hook that knocked out Israel Adesanya and Jamahal Hill translates perfectly to heavyweight. The only question is whether he can handle the wrestling and size advantage of elite heavyweights. But here's the insider knowledge most fans don't know. The heavyweight division is actively looking for stars right now. Dana White would fast-track Pereira to a title shot immediately.
Take on him is he's fucking nasty. That's my take on him. He wants to move up, he wants to move down, he wants to go that's why people love him. Those are the type of fighters that people love. Pereira wants to fight everybody. I love it.
Ilia Topuria represents the perfect storm of youth, timing, and skill. At only 27, he's already the featherweight champion with an undefeated record and knockout power in both hands. His path would be featherweight to lightweight to welterweight, which is the most natural progression for a young fighter. He's got time on his side, something no other contender can say. Topuria's boxing is already elite. His wrestling is rapidly improving, and he's shown incredible fight IQ. The biggest obstacle would be the size difference at welterweight,
155 and a half.
where guys like Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman have 5 to 6 inches of reach advantage. But remember, Topuria called his shot against Alexander Volkanovski and delivered with a perfect knockout. Never bet against confidence and precision. The dark horse is Khamzat Chimaev, and his path might be the most interesting of all. If he wins the middleweight title, he could potentially go back down to welterweight, where he's already dominated elite competition, then move up to light heavyweight, where his wrestling base and freak athleticism would be huge advantages. Chimaev has shown he can ragdoll guys at both 170 and 185. His wrestling translates to every division, and he's got that rare combination of strength and cardio that works at multiple weight classes. The major risk is his health and those brutal weight cuts that have already caused him problems. But if anyone has the physical tools to pull off 3 divisions, it's the guy who once asked Dana White if he could fight twice in one night. John Jones deserves mention because in his prime, he probably could have done it. The light heavyweight GOAT had the frame for heavyweight and the skills for middleweight, but legal issues and time derailed those dreams. Islam Makhachev is incredible at lightweight, but probably too small for the elite welterweights. Sean O'Malley has talked about bantamweight and featherweight, but that's still only 2 divisions. So what's the actual blueprint for pulling this off? You need to win your first belt young, ideally under 28 years old. You need to build massive star power because PPV numbers equal leverage with the UFC. Conor proved this. He got immediate title shots partly because he was a massive draw. You need strategic matchmaking, picking your spots when champions are vulnerable, and most importantly, you need to move fast before divisions evolve and catch up to you. The window is always closing. The longer you wait, the more dangerous each division becomes. Here's what makes this so compelling right now. We're potentially 12 to 18 months away from witnessing MMA history. Think about the stakes. The first triple champion doesn't just become a legend, they become the undisputed greatest fighter of all time. No arguments, no debate. 3 belts settles every GOAT conversation immediately. Dana White himself said, and I quote, "If there's a guy who thinks he can do it and wants to defend all those belts, I'd let him try. But you're going to be very busy. The UFC is open to it. The divisions are perfectly positioned. Pereira has the proven track record and the clearest path. His knockout power is legendary, and heavyweight has historically been the most susceptible to one-punch knockouts. Topuria has youth and perfect timing on his side, plus the technical boxing that could work at multiple weight classes. Chimaev has the physical tools and wrestling base that travels between divisions, along with the mental toughness of someone who grew up in war-torn Chechnya. But let's put this in perspective. Even legends from other eras couldn't pull this off. Dan Henderson held titles in both Pride and UFC, dominated multiple weight classes across different organizations, but never got close to 3 belts in one promotion. Fedor Emelianenko was considered the heavyweight GOAT for a decade, but only ever held 1 title at a time. Even in boxing, where weight cutting is less extreme, only a handful of fighters have ever held 3 belts simultaneously, and that's across multiple sanctioning bodies with dozens of weight classes. The UFC structure makes it even harder. PRIDE had tournaments and more flexible matchmaking. The UFC has rigid rankings, mandatory defenses, and business considerations that didn't exist 20 years ago. What we're talking about has never been done in the modern era of mixed martial arts. And here's a twist that could change everything. The UFC has been quietly discussing new weight divisions. There's been talk of a 165-pound division for years, and Dana White has hinted at a 195-pound division to bridge the gap between middleweight and light heavyweight. If these divisions get added, the landscape completely shifts. New divisions could create more opportunities for multi-division success, But they could also make 3 belts even more impossible by spreading talent thinner and creating more mandatory defenses. The window we're looking at right now might be the last realistic chance for a triple champion in UFC history. From a pure business standpoint, the first triple champion would become the most valuable athlete in combat sports overnight. We're talking about pay-per-view numbers that could break every UFC record, mainstream media coverage that would dwarf anything the sport has seen since Conor's peak. The promotional value alone would be worth hundreds of millions to the UFC. This isn't just about fighting anymore. It's about creating a global superstar that transcends the sport. The first triple champ wouldn't just own the octagon, they'd become the UFC's biggest mainstream attraction since McGregor's rise, potentially opening doors to Hollywood, endorsement deals worth tens of millions, and a legacy that extends far beyond fighting. 3 belts wouldn't just settle the GOAT debate. It would rewrite the entire history of mixed martial arts. Every future promotional package, every highlight reel, every barbershop argument about the greatest fighter of all time would start and end with that fighter's name. We're not just talking about winning fights, we're talking about achieving sporting immortality. Think about it, 30 years from now, when fans are debating who the greatest mixed martial artist of all time was, there will be one name that ends every conversation. The fighter who did what John Jones, Khabib, Anderson Silva, and GSP never could. The fighter who held 3 UFC championship belts at the same time. That level of legacy is what's on the table right now, and somewhere out there, whether it's Pereira, Topuria, Chimaev, or someone we haven't even considered yet, there's a fighter who's willing to risk everything they've built for the chance to become the undisputed greatest mixed martial artist who ever lived. But here's the wild card nobody's talking about. What if someone else emerges? The sport has a history of surprises. What if a young prospect like Ian Gary or Shavkat Rakhmonov goes on a tear and suddenly finds themselves in position for multiple divisions? What if someone like Sean Strickland, who's shown he can compete at both middleweight and light heavyweight, makes an unexpected run? The beautiful thing about MMA is that predictions often get shattered by reality. One of these fighters could be holding 3 UFC championship belts within the next 2 years, or someone we haven't even considered yet could emerge as the ultimate contender. The question isn't if it'll happen anymore. The question is, who will be brave enough to chase immortality? Who's willing to risk everything they've built for the ultimate prize in mixed martial arts? And if you want to see more breakdowns of the biggest fights and storylines in MMA, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got deep dives coming on the craziest weight cuts in UFC history, the most shocking upsets that changed everything, and the untold stories behind the biggest fights of all time. The triple champion dream is closer than ever, and you don't want to miss it when history gets made.